everyone, I'm Minnie and thank you so much for joining me on another video blog. I am a small business owner where I create cute little things like tote bags and makeup bags and mini wallets and sunglass cases or pencil cases, book sleeves and scrunchies and keychains, a lot of cute things that you can't find inside of the stores. So I try to do a little bit different from what everybody else does online, but try to use different fabric and different patterns, and you get me. But anyways, in today's video vlog, I am going to be making pencil cases from the leftover fabric that I had from making book sleeves. So hopefully they turned out cute. I'm hoping that they do. I've been wanting to do this for a while, but just did not have time because of making all of the other stuff. But yeah, let me turn the camera on and let me show you the fabric. Alright, so this is the fabric. It is the same fabric that I used for the book sleeve. See? So I still have quite a lot of fabric left. So I'm hoping that I have enough to make keychains because I don't have these keychains yet with the same fabric. So yeah, pretty much it's just I have some like big pieces here that I can make into that I can cut, so I really don't have to cut like this up right here. And yeah, so now I'm just gonna go ahead and get to cutting. Okay, so I wanted to show you guys everything that I cut, and it didn't take me that long. I just, I had to go to work, but now time to put the batting on. thought I'd give you guys an update. Sorry, I know I look a little bit tired. I am tired, okay? I got out of work at 3:30. I don't think I fell asleep until like 4:30. Then I had to wake up at 7:30 to get my son ready to school, take him to school. Then I did go back to bed after I got home from dropping him from school. So I slept for like 2 hours. I slept from like 8:30 to 10:30. And then I went and I put a load of laundry. I ate some breakfast. I got my Monster, which is not working, but hopefully it wakes me up in a few. Okay, so back to sewing. So I went ahead and I cut the fabric. I added the batting and I started sewing. Sorry, you see my shadow everywhere. I haven't turned the lights on. I went ahead and I sewed them. I think you can see them. I quilted them. And now I'm gonna go ahead and finish it. Hopefully I have until, what is it? It's exactly 11:30. I have until 2:30 before I leave and go pick up my son. Because, you know, I have to get in line because all these parents are already in line at 2:30. And I like to be one of the first ones to pick up my son. So I have 3 hours. So hopefully I can finish this in about 30 to 45 minutes. And then I'll go ahead and trim them, put the zipper on, sew the zipper. And we'll see how much I get done in 3 hours. So yeah, so back to sewing. Sorry, I listen to Spanish music while I sew. right, so I went ahead and I trimmed all of them. Now I'm gonna go ahead and add the zippers. So these are the zippers I used. These are number 5. They are a little bit wider, and I also use these too. So it really all depends on the color. I try to match the color as much as I can. So like here is black. See, there's a black one, so I'll be using that one on this one. And yeah, so see, look, they come in bulk. I normally just take it out and then I just put it in here just to keep it organized. I'll use this for now. And then here are the zippers. They're easy to put in. You just cut whatever size you want on zipper, and then you just go ahead and use the hardware. So yeah, it's that simple. finally finished doing all of the sunglasses pencil cases, and they came out so cute. And this is like an example of one of them. And let me show you the blue one. They came out so cute. I try to put like a matching zipper as close as I could, and then on the inside, I think this one's so cute. It kind of matches like this pattern here. So, but it came out so cute. It's big enough to fit pencils, a lot of pencils, markers, and sunglasses. I don't even know what my sunglasses are, but so here I brought my sunglasses. Here they are. This is what they look like, and there's still enough space. You can put a chopstick in here or even a mascara, and it fits, and it still goes, and you still have more space. But yeah, so that is what it pretty much looks like. I added my tag on it. They all have them. So let me turn the camera and show you guys how they look like. So this is all the ones that I've made. So you can see the blue one that I showed you, the purple one. I try to make 2 of each. And I also try to use like all of the leftover scraps that I had, because I didn't want to cut and just, you know, waste that. But that one's so cute. Okay, yeah, so that is it for my video. I hope you like I'm trying to do things differently, maybe like one thing at a time, like one product at a time, just that it's not overwhelming to me and to like everyone watching and trying to learn things. But yeah, that would be it for my video. I hope you like my video, and join me on the next one for a lot of great new things that I will be making. So thank you for joining. Like and subscribe. Bye.